All right, I've been working on a budgeting app, and part of that we have to be building in transactions. Um, and I noticed that on iOS in particular, I couldn't get it to have a nice number pad with a negative sign on it. So what I ended up doing is looking at the thing called multiparameter attributes in Rails. This is what's used, for example, with the date select, where you have a drop down for the year, month, day, and all of that ends up being combined in one single field. So I wanted to basically do the same thing where I have something where you say whether it's a withdrawal or deposit, and then you would have the amount. So looking at the basic application, if I go into show the transaction and edit this, I just have a negative amount that I can put in here. That works great. So the problem is that if I come in here on the phone, it gives us this. So we can make things better right off the bat by changing this from a text field to a number field. That's just going to help us to display it better. So if we refresh and look at it, this at least gives us a number input. And we can even improve upon that by specifying its input mode is going to be decimal. And actually, we also want to do a step in here of a 0.01. And that's going to make it so that we don't go to fractions of a cent. So if we refresh this, we look at it again, then we have that nice number display, but we can't do a negative number. So to fix that problem, what we're going to do is, let me just check my notes. What we're going to be doing is also having using the multi-parameter attributes. So for that, what we do is we are going to put in another field. So in here, we're going to say this is, so with this, the way that you say that it is going to be a multi-parameter attribute is you throw a bracket after it. And this one will end up being the hash that it gets assigned to. So we're going to set this to be 1. We're going to make this into a select. That's going to be going to field 1. And for this, we're going to want this to be an array of options. So we're going to say withdraw. And that's going to be passed in as, this is what we're using as the sign. So that's going to be a -1. And we're going to have a deposit. And this is going to be a +1. Now, one thing to note is that this gets passed in as a string. So we can go in here and put a I into it at the end. This means that when it gets passed in to Rails, we're going to, the Rails is going to automatically convert it into an integer. So down here, the amount, this is going to be amount 2 and amount 2, and this is going to be coming in as a float. Now, we're dealing with money here, so it's worth noting that you shouldn't really do it this way. But okay, so if I come in here and refresh, we do have the amount 2i, and it's going to be a withdrawal or deposit, and we have amount 2f, and this is blanked out, and that's because that field doesn't exist. So we are going to want to set that on here. So we're going to say value is the transaction dot amount dot 2f, because it could be nil, and then we're going to grab the absolute value of it. All right, so now we're getting the withdraw 2000. Perfect. So what I want to do is hop into this transaction. So if we submit this right now, we're going to get error because it's trying to convert a hash into a float. That way it shoves it into that amount field. So we can see if we look at what's coming into the server, we can see this amount 1i is -1. The amount 2f is the 2000. So if we come in here and we do define a method for the amount equals in here, we can actually check and see if this is a number, if it's a hash or if it's anything else. If it's anything else, we just want to pass it along. So we're not going to actually do anything for that. But if it if value is a, not tis a, is a hash, that's where we're going to want to do a few things with it. So here we can grab the sign. That's equal to the value 1. The magnitude is equal to value 2. And here we're going to actually just reassign the value, and that's going to be equal to the sign times the magnitude. Now, we actually run into a problem if we didn't have that one I and the 2F. They treat it as strings, then we'd be multiplying strings against each other and weird stuff would happen. So this here is going to take care of that. So let's go in here. So we got a withdrawal, so this should be a negative 2,000, and it's a negative 2,000. If we change this to a deposit, it's going to be positive 2,000. So that's perfect. Now there's a few things we can make this a little bit better, so this is kind of bonus, but if we go in here, we can use the number to currency, assuming I can spell and type. All right, so now we're getting 2,000, so this looks better. The other thing we'd want to do is this amount 1i and amount 2f. That doesn't really work great. So for our translation, we can go to the helpers. This is on the label helper. This is for the transaction model. And for the field amount 1i, we want this to be probably like transaction type or something like that. And if we go to the amount 2f, we want this to be just amount. All right, and let's refresh. So now we have our transaction type as a withdrawal. The amount is 2,000. So there we go. That is that's how we have this set up. This lists us two fields. The big benefit with this is that on iOS we don't have to have that. We don't have the problem of not being able to select the negative value for it. It's also a little bit more explicit. If we just have it as negative, then we can get confused with whether that, once we're like moving, if we have like a split transaction where we're putting stuff into one account and moving from another account and doing a transfer, yeah, it just kind of keeps it a little more clear and explicit what we're doing with it. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time.